The point in history at which we stand is full of promise and danger. The world will either move forward to unity and widely shared prosperity, or it will move apart. These are not my words in response to the events of the past couple of days, weeks, and months. They are the words of Franklin Delano Roosevelt addressing Congress in March of 1945. And the question we all have to ask ourselves is, what can we do to achieve that promise, to move forward to unity and widely shared prosperity? What should we do to avoid the pitfalls of danger and of moving apart? The Siddur we read this week is about the experience of the Jewish people in Egypt. A lot of the focus is on the growth of the size of the nation, from 70 souls who came down to Egypt, and about the development of Moshe Rabbeinu, his birth, and ultimately his assumption of leadership. But along the way, we find a story involving young Moshe, who leaves the palace of Paro to go and see the suffering of his brethren. And one day he finds two Jews who are fighting, and he proclaims to the wicked, Lama saker reyecha, why are you hitting your friend? And the man retorts with indignation to Moshe, Ha, mi samcha la'ish, sar v'shofet aleinu. Who made you a leader, a minister, and a judge over us? Hal hargeni ata omer kasher haragta es hamitzri. Are you here to come and kill me as you did the Egyptian the previous day? Moshe had seen two Egyptians fighting. He saved one by striking down the other. Vayira Moshe, and Moshe was afraid. Vayomar, and he said, Ache noda davar, behold, the matter is known. Who are the combatants over here? Our sages tell us the fighters were Dasan and Aviram. If ever Moshe Rabbeinu had a thorn in his side, its name was Dasan and Aviram. These two characters, from the beginning, gave Moshe a rough time. Moshe's trying to make peace in this situation. And Dasan and Aviram, they go to Paro and they tell Paro it's Moshe who killed the Egyptian. When Moshe comes back to the land of Egypt after an extended exile to redeem the Jewish people from Mitzrayim, Dasan v'Aviram lead the campaign against Moshe. When the rest of the Jewish people leave Egypt, Dasan and Aviram don't. They only leave, they wait until the Egyptians are destroyed. Moshe tells the Jewish people that on Shabbos, a double portion of man will fall. Friday, to provide for Shabbos, that on Shabbos no man will fall. And Dasan v'Aviram, they gather man and they try to put it out on Shabbos to show that man does fall on Shabbos. When Korach leads a rebellion against Moshe, Dasan v'Aviram are right there with him. In fact, the Medrash says that Dasan and Aviram were bad from beginning to end. And what's amazing, therefore, is that the census that we read about in Parshas Pinchas We are told that they are Kriyei Ha'eda, they are the called of the assembly. And elsewhere, the Netziv writes to explain what does it mean, Kriyei Ha'eda. It means they are prominent. They are called together to be with Moshe and Aharon. And one has to wonder, why? Why does Moshe show them this honor? These people, they were so bad. They caused so much strife. They were so difficult. Moshe should have criticized them. Moshe should have campaigned for their punishment. And he doesn't do it. Moshe seeks to embrace them, to welcome them, and to involve them. It didn't work, but it didn't stop Moshe either. There are times in life where we have to castigate, criticize, and even cast away. Avram Avinu had to send Yishmael from his house. Vayera hadavar ma'od be'einei Avram. The matter was very bad in the eyes of Avram. Yes, there are exceptional circumstances. We have unfortunately, over the past year, endured so much violence, so many protests, so many riots, so much looting, so much destruction of public and private property. Not a week ago in our own city of Philadelphia, 3 federal buildings downtown were viciously vandalized, were destroyed. And only a couple of days ago, we were horrified to see the scenes at the Capitol. What's going on in our nation? What's going on in our country? Part of what I think is going on is that there's no will to really genuinely work together. There's a desire to criticize. There's a desire to condemn, to put people down. And some of it might be appropriate. But my dear friends, it's not successful. It doesn't work. It doesn't achieve the aims that we need. It does not bring us to a place of promise. It does not bring us to a point of unity. Yes, I believe that politicians have to speak to their own political bases and rein them in when their own constituents, when their own parties act in ways that are abhorrent. But for the most part, that's not what we need to do. For the most part, we need to work to a place of Hine matov umanoyim sheves achim gam yachad. How beautiful, how pleasant it is when brothers sit together. And it's interesting that the pasuk doesn't say Hine matov umanoyim sheves achim yachad, the sitting of brothers together. Sheves achim, the sitting of brothers, gam yachad, also together. That is to say, there's an acknowledgement of individuality, there's an acceptance of diversity, there's a tolerance of different opinions, even if expressed stridently, but still respectfully. A while back, in the midst of all this chaos and anarchy, I heard a very passionate presentation by a member of the Tennessee State Legislature, an African-American Democrat by the name of John J. DeBerry Jr. And he spoke of what it was like as a child going with his father to civil rights protests. And he talked about the importance that they felt in dressing in a way that was respectful, with jackets and ties. And that when things started to get violent or destructive, his father took him and said, "This is not what we're here for. We are not here to be destructive, because peaceful protests end peacefully and chaos ends in anarchy." And he decried very passionately the current way in which there is so much that is destructive. And I feel that we should learn from Moshe Rabbeinu, who understood that rather than put Dasan and Aviram in their place, rather than criticize them, rather than put them down, to try and embrace them, to try and welcome them, to try and engage them in conversation. I think that that's our challenge as well. So easy at our tables, social media, to attack others. And many times it may be justified. But I ask you to genuinely consider whether it's really successful. Does it breed unity or divisiveness? Does it bring us together or tear us apart? Let us not give in to our enemies who want to see us divided. Let us work for a union that is characterized by strength as it is by diversity of opinion. Let us work to get to a point where indeed we recognize Hine ma tov u'ma noyim sheves achim gam yachad.